Good day and blessed be God forever. In today's video, we are going to discuss about how to name different types of compound. And we are going to start with how to name type 1 binary ionic compound from their chemical name to formula name and their formula name to their chemical name. Next is how to name type 2 binary ionic compound from their chemical name to formula name and vice versa. Then, we are going to discuss about the type 3 binary covalent compound naming, chemical name to formula name and vice versa. Next is the naming for ternary ionic compound from their chemical name to formula name and vice versa. Last but not the least is naming of acids from their chemical name to formula name and vice versa. Without further ado, let's get right into the tutorial.
How do we write the formula for the name CaF2? First, we have to identify the elements in this chemical formula. We have calcium as our cation and fluorine as our anion. Make sure that the first element belongs to group 1 or 2 in the periodic table because we are doing the type 1 naming of binary ionic compound. Now, copy the name of the first element. For the second element, we need to get its root word and add the suffix ied or ide. In this case, fluorine's root word is fluor. Then add ide or ide and we will get fluoride. Combine the first element name and the second element's new name to finally get the formula name calcium plus fluoride. We'll get the calcium fluoride. Now that we know how to name type 1 binary ionic compound, we will proceed on how to write the chemical formula. Here, we have calcium fluoride. The first step is to identify the element sign. We have Ca for calcium and F for fluorine. Remember that cation should be placed first. Next, look for their oxidation state. Calcium has positive 2 oxidation while fluorine has negative 1. Now, get their LCM and divide it by oxidation states. In this example, the LCM of two elements are 2. For calcium, 2 divided by 2 will get 1. For fluorine, 2 divided by 1 will get 2. Now that the quotients will be written in subscript besides the element respectively. But if the quotient is 1, you can just put the elements itself, put it all together, and there you have it. The chemical name for calcium fluoride is CaF2.
Hi, we're going to name ionic compound with transition metals. We got 2 elements, which is copper and fluorine. Copper is a transition metal. It is in the group 11 of the periodic table of elements. Copper, it has a positive 1 and positive 2 charge. In order to get the formula of the 2 elements, we need to balance the charges by using basic math and by adding the word IDE. When you balance it out, to distinguish the names of the 2 compound, we need to use Roman numerals. And since fluorine has negative 1 charge and copper has positive 1 charge, it's gonna give us copper 1 fluoride. And since copper has positive 2 charge, we need 2 blocks of fluorine and will give us copper 2 fluoride. Hi! Now let's move on writing ionic formulas with transition metals. We got the name copper 2 fluoride. We got 2 elements which is copper and fluorine. Copper has positive 2 charge and fluorine has negative 1. So in order to get the formula of the elements, we need to get the LCM, which is 2, and equate the elements, which will give us 1 set of copper and 2 set of fluorine, and will give us the formula CuF2.
Phosphorus and sulfur. Before we translate this formula name to compound name, we should always remember that all anions are needed to put prefix IDE after taking the first part of the element name. In naming binary covalent compound, both elements get a prefix that indicates the number of each element in a compound. Here are the prefixes worth to be put in before the name of the element: the mono, di, tri, tetra, The prefixes shown in the right side of the slide will serve as the guide for getting the formula for the compound name. Diphosphorus means that phosphorus has low oxidation number, while monosulfide means that sulfur has 1 oxidation number. So it will be B subgroup S. We should also need to remember that if the element contains only 1 oxidation number, we don't need to put the oxidation number 1. It is automatically a single element.
Now for the next example, we are going to name the compound NH4F. So the first step to name that compound is to identify the symbols. So the first symbol is NH4, which stands for ammonium, and F, which is the symbol of fluorine. Now, ammonium is one of polyatomic ions, so therefore we will know that this is a ternary ionic compound. And to name ternary ionic compound, we have to follow these rules. Ammonium plus negative non-metal ion, ammonium plus negative element, and positive element plus negative polyatomic ion. And for this example, we will follow the ammonium plus negative non-metal ion because fluorine is a negative non-metal ion. So ammonium plus fluorine, we'll just have to get the root word for fluorine and add the suffix IDE. We'll get ammonium fluoride. So there you have it. The formula name for NH4F is ammonium fluoride. Now that we know how to write the name for ternary ionic compounds, we'll proceed on how to write their chemical names. So for this example, we have ammonium fluoride. The first step is to identify the compound and element given in that example and to identify their symbols. So for ammonium, we have NH4, and for fluorine, we have symbol F. Now, we have to see and look for their oxidation state. So the oxidation state for ammonium is positive 1, while the oxidation state for fluorine is negative 1. Now, to balance the element and the compound, we just have to get their LCM and divide it by their oxidation state. So for ammonium, we have 1 divided by 1 is 1, and for the fluorine, we have 1 divided by 1 is 1. So we'll just have to write it down. Make sure that the cations are written first before the anion. So the chemical name for ammonium fluoride is NH4F. Now we will move on how to name acids. So in this example, we have HNO sub 3. So first is to figure out what element is in that example. So we have hydrogen and nitrate. So hydrogen is symbolized by H and nitrate is symbolized by NO sub 3. So we will see the naming formula, and since nitrate ends with the suffix ATE, we will replace it with the suffix IC, acid. So that nitrate, it will turn into nitric acid, and there you have it. The acid name for HNO sub 3 is nitric acid. Last but not the least, we are going to get the acid formula of nitric acid. Because of the root word niter, therefore the element in that example is nitrogen. And since nitric acid ends with ic, acid, nitrogen will transform into nitrate. Then nitrate is symbolized by NO sub 3, and since nitrate has an oxygen, we'll add hydrogen. Next is to figure out their oxidation states, and their oxidation states is -1 and +1 respectively. Now the next step is to make sure that the element and the compound are balanced. But since we have a -1 and +1 for nitrate and hydrogen, we just have to leave it as is and write it down. So make sure that cation will be written first, then the anion. So the acid formula for nitric acid is NHO sub 3. And that is all for this video. We hope that you've learned a lot from us on how to name different types of compound. Have a great day, young chemists!